effective than ration cuts to cause unrest. I've worked out methods by which this...
Before Terry Nation created television's most cynical space opera, Blake's 7 was dismissed as too dark and unmarketable by BBC executives who couldn't grasp its revolutionary vision of heroic failure. The cast has finally revealed secrets that will transform your understanding of this groundbreaking series about rebellion and betrayal. The series that almost never escaped the Federation. What most fans don't realize is that Blake's 7 was nearly cancelled before the first series aired, because BBC executives were horrified by its pessimistic view of humanity's future and its portrayal of heroic characters as morally ambiguous failures. The series challenged every television convention about good versus evil narratives and heroic triumph over adversity. Gareth Thomas revealed years later that even the cast questioned whether audiences would accept such dark material.
But at the same time, it could not be an invulnerable supercruiser, otherwise that would actually take the drama.
We were making a show where the heroes regularly failed, betrayed each other, and died meaningless deaths. Terry Nation was creating something that actively rejected the optimism of Star Trek and other science fiction series. The series pioneered cynical space opera decades before such approaches became acceptable. Paul Darrow disclosed that the Federation's totalitarian efficiency was deliberately designed to seem more competent than the rebels. The villains aren't cartoonish evil. They're bureaucratically efficient at maintaining order through systematic oppression. Blake's rebels are passionate but incompetent compared to the Federation's organized brutality. This moral complexity challenged audience expectations about heroic narratives. Sally Navette noted how the series' budget limitations forced creative storytelling.
Where there are fan clubs in the way that there aren't in other.
We couldn't afford spectacular space battles or elaborate alien worlds, so Terry focused on character psychology and political intrigue. The limitations made us develop more sophisticated scripts than bigger budget shows could manage. The constraints enhanced rather than diminished the series' dramatic impact and philosophical depth. The Liberator, Freedom's beautiful prison. The alien ship. Liberator wasn't just transportation. It was the series' central metaphor for how advanced technology can both liberate and enslave its users, creating dependence on systems beyond human understanding or control. What the cast revealed about conceptualizing this mysterious vessel shows how they created television's most psychologically complex spacecraft. The ship's organic computer system, Zen, represented artificial intelligence that served its users while maintaining its own agenda and limitations. Zen wasn't just a helpful computer, it was an alien intelligence with its own priorities and moral framework, disclosed Michael Keating, who played Vila. The crew never fully understood or controlled their own ship, which made them dependent on technology they couldn't comprehend. The Liberator's superior speed and firepower gave Blake's team tactical advantages, but also made them targets for every Federation force and bounty hunter in the galaxy. The ship made us powerful, but also marked us for destruction, noted Gareth Thomas.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
It works. The original ones didn't.
Yes.
We used to stand and go...
Having the most advanced vessel in space meant we could never hide or retreat to anonymity. The ship's mysterious origins and eventual loss reflected the series' themes about the temporary nature of power and advantage. The Liberator represented hope and capability, but Terry always intended for us to lose it, revealed Paul Darrow. Nothing in Blake's 7 was permanent. Even our greatest assets were destined for destruction or betrayal. The ship became a character whose fate paralleled the crew's inevitable tragic destiny. Blake's moral certainty versus Avon's pragmatism. The relationship between Blake and Avon wasn't just character conflict. It represented fundamental philosophical disagreement about how to oppose tyranny and whether moral certainty justifies sacrificing individuals for larger causes. What Gareth Thomas and Paul Darrow revealed about developing this central tension shows how they created television's most complex leadership dynamic. Thomas disclosed his interpretation of Blake's dangerous idealism. Blake believes so completely in his cause that he's willing to sacrifice anyone, including his own crew, for the greater good of defeating the Federation. His moral certainty makes him both inspiring and terrifying, because he never questions whether his methods contradict his goals. The character embodied the dangerous extremes of revolutionary thinking. Darrow revealed his approach to Avon's cynical intelligence.
Life form that it has ever been my good fortune to come across.
Avon sees through Blake's rhetoric to recognize that revolutionary leaders often become as tyrannical as the systems they replace. He's committed to survival and personal freedom rather than abstract political causes. This perspective made Avon simultaneously selfish and more realistic about human nature than Blake's idealism allowed. The tension between these philosophies drove many episodes and ultimately led to Blake's departure from his own series. Blake's absolutism and Avon's relativism were incompatible worldviews that couldn't coexist indefinitely, noted Thomas. Their conflict represented larger questions about whether ends justify means and whether revolutionary movements inevitably corrupt their own ideals. The philosophical disagreement became the series' thematic foundation and dramatic engine. The Federation's bureaucratic evil. The Federation wasn't depicted as cartoonishly evil empire. It was Terry Nation's vision of totalitarianism achieved through bureaucratic efficiency, psychological manipulation, and citizen complicity rather than obvious brutality. What the cast revealed about portraying this system shows how they created television's most realistic and terrifying authoritarian government.
Then scrambled. They, in their turn, become an unbreakable code.
Unbreakable unless you have one of those.
As soon as I get this...
The Federation's use of psychological conditioning and drug-induced compliance rather than simple force represented more sophisticated approaches to population control. The Federation doesn't need to kill rebels. They can reprogram them to become loyal citizens, disclosed Jacqueline Pierce, who played Servalan. This makes resistance more difficult because you're fighting ideas and conditioning rather than just military force. Servalan's character embodied the Federation's seductive appeal. She was intelligent, beautiful, and completely ruthless in pursuing power. Servalan represents how attractive totalitarian efficiency can be, Pierce explained. She's not evil for evil's sake. She genuinely believes that order and control create better society than freedom and chaos. The Federation's citizens weren't depicted as oppressed victims, but as willing participants who accepted security in exchange for freedom. Most people in Blake's universe choose comfort over liberty, noted Paul Darrow. The Federation succeeds because it gives people what they actually want: safety, entertainment, and freedom from responsibility. This realistic portrayal made the system more frightening than simple military dictatorship. Vila's cowardice as survival wisdom. Vila Ristal wasn't just comic relief, he was the series' voice of practical wisdom and survival instinct.
Vila.
I'm entitled to my opinion.
It is your assumption that we are entitled to it as well that is irritating.
In a universe where heroic gestures usually resulted in meaningless death. What Michael Keating revealed about developing this character shows how apparent cowardice often represented the most intelligent response to impossible circumstances. Keating disclosed his interpretation of Vila's survival strategies. Vila's not really cowardly. He's realistic about the crew's chances of survival and success. While others pursue heroic gestures, Vila focuses on staying alive long enough to potentially make a difference later. The character's pragmatism provided necessary counterbalance to the other's self-destructive idealism. Vila's skills as a thief and lockpicker made him indispensable despite his reluctance to fight, demonstrating how different talents contribute to group survival. Vila proves that you don't have to be brave to be valuable, Keating noted.
I'm 20,000 credits down.
Come on, Vila, pay up.
Why don't I ever win?
His technical skills and street wisdom saved the crew repeatedly, even though he'd rather avoid danger entirely. The character's humor served psychological functions for both the crew and audiences dealing with the series' relentless pessimism. Vila's jokes weren't just entertainment. They were coping mechanisms for dealing with impossible stress and constant threats, revealed Keating. His apparent weakness often proved more sustainable than others' heroic strength. Servalan's seductive totalitarianism. Supreme Commander Servalan wasn't just another space villain. She was Terry Nation's exploration of how intelligent, charismatic leaders can make authoritarian control seem attractive and necessary.
Perhaps this particular fool will tell her how.
What Jacqueline Pearce revealed about developing this iconic character shows how they created television's most sophisticated female antagonist decades before such complexity became common. Pearce disclosed her approach to making Servalan both seductive and terrifying. Servalan genuinely believes she's serving humanity's best interests by maintaining order and eliminating chaos. She's not motivated by sadism or power for its own sake. She sees herself as civilization's guardian against anarchy and incompetence. This conviction made her more dangerous than simple megalomaniacal villains. Servalan's romantic and professional relationships with various characters demonstrated how personal connections become tools for manipulation in totalitarian systems. Servalan uses attraction and intimacy as weapons, but she's also capable of genuine emotion, Pearce explained. The combination of vulnerability and ruthlessness makes her unpredictable and compelling rather than simply evil. The character's survival through multiple apparent deaths reflected the resilience of institutional power versus individual rebellion. Servalan represents the system itself. She can be temporarily defeated but never permanently eliminated because the structures that created her remain intact, noted Pearce. Her persistence embodied the durability of totalitarian systems against heroic opposition. The budget limitations that enhanced storytelling. Blake Seven's notoriously low budget wasn't just a production constraint. It forced the series to prioritize character development, political themes, and psychological drama over visual spectacle in ways that enhanced rather than diminished its dramatic impact and philosophical sophistication.
Stylish in a sort of supercruiser, but at the same time, it could not be invulnerable.
The limited sets and costumes required scripts that focused on dialogue and character interaction rather than action sequences and special effects. We couldn't afford elaborate alien worlds or space battles, so Terry wrote scripts that explored character psychology and political philosophy, disclosed Paul Darrow. The budget limitations forced us to develop more sophisticated storylines than expensive productions might have attempted. The quarry locations used for alien planets became part of the series' distinctive aesthetic and thematic approach. Those quarries looked desolate and hostile, which perfectly represented the universe Terry was creating, noted Michael Keating. The environments felt genuinely alien and dangerous without requiring expensive sets or exotic locations. The simple costumes and makeup allowed actors to focus on performance rather than elaborate physical transformations. We had to create alien characters through acting rather than prosthetics, revealed Sally Nivette. This emphasis on performance over appearance made the characters more believable and relatable to audiences. The series' visual limitations became strengths by forcing creative solutions that prioritized storytelling over spectacle, proving that imagination could overcome budget constraints through superior writing and committed performances that served philosophical themes rather than visual entertainment. The death toll that shocked television. Blake Seven's willingness to kill major characters wasn't just dramatic surprise. It was fundamental to Terry Nation's vision of a universe where heroic gestures rarely succeed and good intentions don't protect anyone from violence or betrayal. The series pioneered character mortality in ways that influenced decades of subsequent television drama.
Oh, come on, be fair. They're of no use to you.
The deaths weren't arbitrary shock value, but served thematic purposes about the cost of resistance and the futility of individual heroism against systematic oppression. Terry killed characters to show that bravery and moral righteousness don't guarantee survival, disclosed Gareth Thomas. The universe doesn't reward virtue or punish evil. It simply continues regardless of individual fates. Each major character death represented different aspects of heroic failure and the various ways rebellion can be defeated. Gan's death showed how loyalty can be exploited. Callie's death demonstrated the cost of psychic connection. Blake's death proved that even leaders are expendable, noted Paul Darrow. The series' culmination in the massacre of nearly the entire cast established new standards for dramatic conclusion and narrative courage. Terry wasn't interested in happy endings or heroic triumph, revealed Michael Keating. He wanted to show that sometimes the good guys lose completely and permanently. The ending that defined television tragedy. Blake's Seven's final episode, where Avon kills Blake in a moment of betrayal and paranoia, represents one of television's most devastating conclusions that challenged every convention about heroic narratives and redemptive character arcs. What Paul Darrow revealed about filming this shocking climax shows how they created television's most uncompromising tragic ending. Darrow disclosed his interpretation of Avon's final choice. Avon shoots Blake because he believes Blake has betrayed them to the Federation, but he's wrong. The tragedy is that paranoia and mistrust destroy the rebellion more effectively than any Federation weapon could. The ending suggested that resistance movements often collapse from internal suspicion rather than external pressure. The subsequent massacre of the remaining crew members wasn't just dramatic shock, it was logical conclusion of the series' themes about the futility of individual heroism against systematic oppression. Terry wanted to show that sometimes evil wins completely, noted Gareth Thomas. The Federation doesn't just defeat the rebels, it eliminates them entirely without consequence or justice. Watch the series again with appreciation for its revolutionary approach to heroic narratives, its influence on dystopian television, and its prescient warnings about how totalitarian systems maintain power through citizen complicity rather than obvious force. Notice how every element serves the larger themes about resistance, betrayal, and the terrible cost of opposing systematic oppression. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into television's most challenging and influential science fiction achievements. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads, and let us know in the comments whether you think Blake's rebellion was doomed from the beginning. Trust no one.